Here's a walk that's going to take us over a couple of Wainwright's western fells. Up onto Fellbarrow summit, over to Low Fell, we'll get commanding views down over Crummock Water, and then we're going to investigate a mystery that Wainwright describes in his pictorial guide. The walk area is to the west of Keswick and south of Cockermouth, and we're just north of Loweswater. We're going to park up on the road between Loweswater and Waterend. We'll ascend an old track which would have gone to Mosser, and when we get along the track we'll turn right, up over Mosser Fell, onto Fellbarrow summit, then head south over Smithy Fell, over Sourfoot Fell, past Watching Crag, onto Low Fell summit. We'll have a look down over to Crummock Water. We're then going to head up to the northwest to Beckhead Moss, then on to Darling Fell, back down to the lane and return to the car. We've parked up on a small lay-by which has room for 3 cars. This is coming from Loweswater as if you're heading to Waterend. Make sure you pull in nice and tight so you don't impede other traffic. As we walk towards Waterend, you'll see a small old track that heads up to the right. Let's take that. This is Mosser Lane. It's fallen out of use for vehicles now, but it gives you a good gentle ascent up onto the hills. As you rise up, do have a look over to your left and you'll see Burnbank Fell and Carling Knot across Loweswater. As you climb up this path you'll see a really nice seat with a view, and then just to the right a gate. We'll be coming down through here later at the end of the walk. But we're not going to linger here, we're going to carry on up the track. This was obviously a metal road at one time leading up towards the hamlet of Mosser, but the state of the tarmac is now so bad you couldn't drive a car along it. So after a few hundred metres you'll see on the left hand side a sign pointing down the hill to the public bridleway, and that's where you'd come up. You'd have crossed the fields at the start of the walk if you parked up in the lay-by with the telephone box, and you'll join the route here along the lane. So it's been a gradual ascent and the track is now sort of flattened out. We've come to this point here where you can see a long straight track, and it's actually heading up towards Sourfoot Fell. Now you could take that track and carry it all the way along to the end where there's a gate and it gets you into that next allotment. When you get to that gate you have to turn left over some boggy ground, over another fence, and then that will take you up through the bracken onto Fellbarrow, which is another way of doing it. I've been up that way myself before, but this track here can get really boggy, as can the land in between the gate and Fellbarrow. So for a change I'm going to go up a little bit further and we'll take another smaller lane which should just go straight onto the slopes of Fellbarrow, which should be less boggy. Fingers crossed. Come on. In about 200 yards, take this lesser track down to the right, pass through a gate, over a stream, and take the distinct path that goes up to the left over Mosser Fell and then up to the top of Fellbarrow.
It's a good steady climb over good grassy ground, and the western side of Cumbria stretches out behind you.
As you come up that rise, the first thing you'll see is this pile of stones set amongst these rushes, and they're formed in a sort of circle. I've no idea what the history of them is or anything about them at all, but they do appear on the 6-inch maps of the 1800s. But it's quite a collection of stones on such a bare hill, and you'll see if you stand here that you're only about 50 metres west of the trig point on the top of the fell. So we'll go and have a look there. And this is the summit of Fellbarrow, and it's identified by this cairn here and the OS trig point. Now in Wainwright's day this was measured at 1363 feet, and it was the only measured height on the whole fell. No benchmarks, nothing on Fellbarrow, just this measured height at the trig point.
This cairn here to the right isn't the highest point, even though it looks as if it should be, and it's just a pile of stones that bears no relevance really. So this trig column is the summit of Fellbarrow according to Wainwright in his pictorial guide.
But for those who are completely obsessed with what's a summit, Wainwright summits and things like this, this will be your Wainwright summit. But if the true summit is not this cairn here beside us, but it's actually over here on this bare patch of grass, about 20 metres southeast of here, no identification at all, but there's the true summit of Fellbarrow. It's not marked at all, so if you want to go to the true summit you've got to walk over the stile here and over there and reckon where the highest point is. That's only if you want to be very pedantic about it. But just for the sake of it, to say I've done it, I'm going to get over the fell. I'll take Nancy and we'll go and have a wander over there and see if there's even a stone or anything. Up. This lake's southeast. And there is nothing. This is about it. You wouldn't know. There's nothing here. But you're going to have to come here with a GPS marker, plonk your walking poles in here and say you've been to the true summit of Fellbarrow. But that's not what we're here for. What we're going to do next, we're going to walk along the fence line, down to the south, over Smithy Fell, over Sourfoot, and then on to Low Fell. Beautiful afternoon for it. A little bit breezy, hazy, but for September, very warm.
On the route south, you'll pass over the rounded top of Smithy Fell. Nothing really of interest, but we'll just follow the fence line, heading towards Sourfoot Fell. We now have a wall on the right. We carry on down over the mossy patch and then take the faint path which you can see on the hill in front of us, and that will take us to the top of Sourfoot. Before long we're at the top of Sourfoot Fell. a junction of two fence lines and an old boundary stone. We carry along the path in the direction of Watching Crag, but keeping the fence on our right. Another fence line comes up from our right, and we get a good view of Low Fell and many of the higher hills beyond.
Just after you come through the gate and over the rise, you get this impressive view of the Lakeland Fells and your first glimpse of Crummock Water from this walk. It's a little bit hazy today, but it really is an impressive scene. We'll talk about the view as we get to the far end of Low Fell. Low Fell being this hill here, just on our right, and that's where we're heading now.
Before we get to the top of Low Fell, I've come to one side of the path to take a look back. We're looking down towards Lawton, and in front of us is Watching Crag. I remember I came here when I was getting references for the Wainwrights in colour, and just like in Wainwright's drawing, there were the sheep hefted and sitting and grazing on the fell, and again they're still here today. Not the same sheep of course, but still hefted onto that same rise of hill. Now from here, if we turn round, how's that for a view? The scenery gets better all the time as you walk south on the Low Fell ridge. Who needs a drone? Just a short pull up now on the path to the north top of Low Fell. And this stile. This is one of those stiles in a great location. It's actually changed since I was here last, but its position and the composition of it with the hills away in the distance makes a really great photograph or painting. The shot that I took of this stile and the fells behind has proven to be one of the best and most popular photographs and greeting cards that I've had printed. It was just the right light and the style was a perfect foreground for the composition. Anyway, we're going to cross the stile and get onto the heights of Low Fell. As you can see, we're now heading into Low Fell Nature Reserve. Byland Plant Trees was originally set up by Sally Phillips of Chimney Sweep, a company using Herdwick fleeces, and this was to enable agriculturally poor land to be given back to nature. The Low Fell site is 158 acres of upland heath, and it's been grazed by sheep for a very long time. But what they plan to do is plant groups of trees and scrub to give it a more natural look, and this began in winter of 2021. I'll link to the website in the description so you can read more about the project. We're now on the ridge, let's call it, of Low Fell, and so we just carry on walking south. You can see the highest point of Low Fell in the distance. That's where we're heading.
This is the north summit of Low Fell. Now, when Wainwright was doing his work on the pictorial guides, there was a very small cairn here, and there was no measured height. There wasn't any measured height on Low Fell itself, as it was named on the 1H Ordnance Survey maps. And this top, even though Wainwright acknowledged it would be higher than the more southerly top, this isn't the Wainwright summit. Now it is the true summit. It has been measured accurately now at 423 metres and 1386 feet. And a lot of people regard this as the top of Low Fell, but it's not the Wainwright top. And I'll explain why it's not when we get to the southern cairns at the far end of the fell. It's certainly got bigger as a cairn than even when I was here, or probably 10 years ago. Let's go down to the southern top.
Cross another stile with a convenient dog gate and head on towards the southern top of Low Fell. It may not be very high, but I think Low Fell provides one of the best views in the whole of the Lake District. The view right down over Crummock Water, past Ranadale Knots, with haystacks beyond, is just stunning, and you're surrounded by some really high fells. Perfect on an evening like this. But actually, the cairn where we're at now, what would be called the south top, doesn't give the best viewpoint. For that, you need to carry on south and actually head down a bit towards another smaller cairn perched on a high point. So let's go down there now. Anyone who comes to the top of Low Fell and doesn't come to this point is missing a real treat.
Now this is the south top of Low Fell. There seems to be a bit of confusion as to which is the Wainwright summit on Low Fell, and it's quite easy to identify. We've been to the north top, and the north top of that cairn, which is now bigger than it was in his day, is recognised as the true summit of the fell. But this is the Wainwright top. And how do you identify the Wainwright top? Well, in his books, where he identified a summit in his category, in his class if you like, he put a black triangle. And he marks that triangle, if you look in the index, it says Summit Cairn. This is the Summit Cairn in Wainwright's pictorial guide. Is it the right cairn? Well, it's in the right place, because if you have a look at the map on Low Fell 2, you'll see the black cairn is there, and it's surrounded on three sides by a fence. To the north, the east and the west, and then further down by a wall. And that's where we are now. He also marks the other two cairns just 100 metres, 120 metres south of here. One of them's disappeared, but the furthest one is still there, and they are very close by. So this is definitely the Wainwright top. Now, some of the hill lists identify the north top as the Wainwright top, and that's wrong. And that should clarify up what is the Wainwright summit of Low Fell. That cairn. If you disagree, leave a comment. Always happy to have a debate about Wainwright and his work. Anyway, we've had something to eat, and what we're going to do is going to head back. Our next target is to go to Darling Fell. But we're not going to go direct. I have a plan. There's a location that I want to go and find, and it should be quite interesting if I find it. Wainwright refers to it in here, but he couldn't find it. Let's go and find it. So this is the stile that we came across earlier before we went to the Wainwright top of Low Fell. Come. And instead of cutting down to Darling Fell and doing the direct route, we're heading, once we're over this stile, we're going to take up a faint track that takes us into this little valley, which is sort of off the beaten route.
You can just see the path we're taking on the left, but this soon fades out. The darker patch of vegetation is where we're heading, and it's called Beckhead Moss. And this wall is the Wainwright mystery that I've come to solve. This stone structure is more than just a wall. It's actually the dam that held back the water at Beckhead Moss. From here it went down a leat to Loweswater mine to power engines for lifting ore and draining the water from a very wet lead mine. In the Low Fell chapter of Wainwright's pictorial guide, he speculated that the dam would have been just an earth embankment, and there are no signs of the reservoir. But yes, here it is. That dam is made out of solid stone. Sadly, in the summer of 1828, the dam burst. Water rushed down the valley and passed through Crabtree Farm, where two of the occupants were washed down into Loweswater, where they drowned. They were a father and son, Joseph and John Tyrrell. Joseph was 35, his son was only 2. I'll put a link in the description below to my friend Raymond Greenhouse's blog, where he investigates this very tragic story. But yes, I came here to look for a dam and I found it. Mission accomplished. From here, we're going to climb the slopes of Darling Fell to the summit. As we climb the slopes of Darling Fell, the evening light is tremendous over Low Fell, where we've been earlier, with Melbrake getting the sun in the distance.
So here we are on the summit area of Darling Fell. Now, Darling Fell was one of those fells listed by Wainwright when he was originally working on his draft list of the fells for the pictorial guides, but Darling Fell never made it. Low Fell, over there, being the nearest. And oddly enough, of the fells that we've been on today, this is the only one that had benchmarks all the way up to the summit. And the summit was marked over here, behind us, or in front of us as I'm looking at it, at 1,282 feet. Here is a small cairn. Now the cairn sits near the summit, or the true summit, and that's the point that we're standing on now. It's slightly higher than that cairn. But most people will come to Darling Fell and come and see that cairn and head on. And that's what we're going to do. The light's fading a bit. It's actually not too bad. We've got about an hour's left of good daylight to walk in. But the Wainwright summit, as it would have been at 1,282 feet, is that rise just that you can see on the horizon near the fence. So we'll go walk there, have a look. I know there'll be nothing there, but we can say that we've done what would have been the Wainwright top of Darling Fell. Let's go that way.
And just as Wainwright mentioned in the Low Fell chapter, there is no cairn on the top, or his top, of Darling Fell, just a bare patch of grass. And we're going to head back to the car. We'll pass through this tumble down fence and down the slopes of Darling Fell. And one last look back towards Fellbarrow, Smithy Fell and Sourfoot Fell.
So from here it's a simple descent off Darling Fell back to the lane, the Mosser lane that we came up earlier, and then back to the car. It's been an enjoyable day, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. The fells that I've described here, Fellbarrow, Low Fell and Darling Fell, will of course all feature on the section of my website called the Lakelands 365. So I'll put a link into that down the bottom, but of course you can always just go straight to my website, and I'll be updating that in the near future. It is a very long process and I'm busy with paintings, but hopefully you'll have a bit of patience and bear with me as I work through this, what I think is a very interesting project. Now, as I've said before, if you enjoyed what I do, enjoyed my films, then why not give me a like? It's very simple. One click of your button and it means a lot to me. And even more importantly, why not subscribe to my channel? Because now I'm back into doing some work and I've got loads of films to update and upload already. Why not follow me and you'll get updates of when I put new films up. As the sun goes down and the light starts to fade, I'll carefully make my way down off this steep section of fell back to the car. But as I always say, thanks for watching.